Okay, so I am Chuck Bordron with the University of Georgia, and this webinar is going to be focused on um, EDDMapS Pro and how it can be used to help support the Six Rivers Cooperative Invasive Species Management area and a project they are doing on Kogon grass control. And so I'm going to kind of go under the assumption that everybody has a little bit of familiarity with EDDMapS, either the website or the SEDEN Southeast Early Detection Network smartphone app, and really focus today on this new tool that we have built to really support management and treatment of invasive plants or invasive species in general, with kind of us looking at Kogon grass as an example. So first of all, from the EDDMapS website, you can go in and you can choose a species, and you can map that, view maps of that species either at the county level, and kind of see the county distribution, or at the point level where it's actually points on the map that you can zoom into. Obviously, the distribution is not exactly the same when you look at a point level versus a county level, because we don't have coordinates for all the points. But what you can see, and it even shows up on this Kogon grass map, is about a year and a half, 2 years ago, we started this process of changing the story that was told when you look at a map on EDDMapS, and focusing on not just where the particular invasive species is, but also what its status is. So instead of just a map full of red points, no hope for the invasive species, starting to change the color and thus change the story of where these where these reports, and in this case Kogon grass, have been treated, have been even eradicated. And also, if somebody looked and found the species, and it was, looked in a place, and hey, they can call that area negative. So that's kind of been where we've been. You've been able to report stuff through EDDMapS, through the website, or using whatever regional app is appropriate for your region. And in the Southeast, it would be the Southeast Early Detection Network, or in Florida, even the I've Got One app is also another choice that's kind of more geared toward Florida. But we came up with this concept, and I'm going to switch over to PowerPoint because I've got a quick presentation that kind of describes where we started at, to build this app that we're calling EDDMapS Pro. And the concept behind this really came from county weed managers in Utah and Montana. And they came to us and they said, we're out in the field all day. We're collecting a lot of data. We also want to be able to do revisits of existing points in the field. And, we would like to, sometimes we don't have cellular connectivity in some of these areas, and we would like to be able to, have some kind of background layer to what we're looking at when we're in the field. And also not depend on the internet to actually view the EDDMapS points. So we said, okay, you select an area that you're interested in this case, a county, and we're choosing a county in Utah for this example. You download all of the data from the EDDMapS from up in the cloud over to your tablet, your device, and then once you do that, you will have options, and the directions are not built in right now, but you'll be able to see everything that is currently there, as well as as well as new points. As well as you can add new points to the map, so you can kind of see, okay, well, Coground grass is already made, already been reported here, but then we want to, you know, in these spots, but we want to be able to add a new point. So you can drop a new point, put information about that new point, and then also select existing points and do revisits on those. And then at the end of the day, that will sync back to the server, and you can download that data again and have the new data as it was updated. And we're looking at other ways to kind of tie that in to even Google Street View, and with it launching in March of this year. So that's kind of an overview. I'm going to jump into how the app works in just a second. But Tim asked if I could make him the presenter. So before I go into actually how the app works, I'm going to let's see what Tim wants to talk about, and then we'll jump into the app. Tim, have you got your audio going? So I can make you presenter, but we've got to be able to hear you. I'll switch this over and make you the presenter. But we aren't able to hear you right now, and you have to share your screen on your computer before we can see what you're looking at. There you go.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now. Good deal.
Okay. Feedback, I think. So this is Tim Mersman. I don't have anything to show on my screen. We're just trying to get things set up and having a little technical difficulties on our end. But I can share that the purpose, some of the background and purpose for this demonstration. Let me check first to make sure everyone can hear me. Am I coming through okay for everyone?
Yeah, you should be good.
Okay. Yeah, maybe we don't need that.
Okay.
We're on both the phone and the computer audio here. Okay. About a year and a half ago, we started seeing more Cogan grass occurrences on the Conecuh, and we've been after Cogan grass for many years and doing a pretty good job of keeping control of it, but starting to see a lot more occurrence, and just realizing that if we don't look beyond our borders and get coordinated at a much larger scale, that we ultimately won't be successful for Cogan grass control. And we've got a great set of partnerships in this part of the world through primarily GCPEP, the Gulf Coastal Plain Ecosystem Partnership that's coordinated by the Longleaf Alliance. And so we pulled a bunch of folks together, including, importantly, some county engineering departments, and got everybody talking about the idea of coordinated Cogan grass control across all ownerships. And we defined about a 1 million acre landscape surrounding the Conecuh National Forest, Geneva State Forest in Alabama, and Whitewater River State Forest in Florida, that encompasses a number of partner lands. And we had a workshop last February, about a year ago, where we had a lot of the partners and talked about best practices for Cogan grass control, as well as what a good partnership would look like, an effective partnership would look like for doing code and grass control. And one element of that clearly is a common database for everyone to track their code and grass occurrences, as well as treatments and monitoring that goes with that. We had some discussion at that workshop about options. EDDMapS was one of them. Collector app through Esri was the other major one. And we've recently had a conversation with our Forest Service support people in the regional office, both in the invasive species program as well as resource information or our IT department. And many felt like EDDMapS has a lot of promise, and that the Forest Service and others have invested a lot in that. And so we just want to see kind of what the functionality of EDDMapS is. We've got some of the partners on this on the phone or on the computer for this demo. I think the bottom line is, for functionality, is to be able to document locations and status in a way that is accessible to a wide variety of partners. So something that's not, doesn't have a lot of firewalls involved, and difficulty in getting everyone to contribute to the same database. So that's kind of the background. We do have another workshop planned in April, on April 24th of this year, and we hope to have some more information and maybe decisions at that point that we can share with our partners and get the working group using a common app. Any questions for me?
Is the volume turned up on that?
You still there?
Yeah, no, that sounds great. Thanks, Tim. Sorry, I just kind of jumped into things, and I can backtrack some if I need to, or I can jump right into showing the new app and how it works and what it does.
Actually, blue.
Tim, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
No, I'm on the computer.
On his computer now?
Yeah, it's all the way down.
Yeah, there you go.
So maybe that was.
Trying.
There you go. Tim, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So yeah, before I popped over to you, I had kind of gone through a little bit of where we were, and I guess now I can kind of jump directly into the EDDMapS Pro app if you want me to, and give a little bit of what it does and actually show how it works.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, so let me switch back over, and then we'll save this, and I can y'all can show it to other partners that later. I'll post it on YouTube or something. So this new app that we've developed to kind of meet some of the needs of our users is called EDDMapS Pro. Is currently available in the both the Apple Store and the Android Google Play Store. It's free to download. When you download it, I think the first thing it asks you to do is log in with an EDDMapS account. So you've got to do that first. And once you do that, then what comes up when you open the app is a map view. So no more list of species, no more fact sheets, field guides kind of information included in this app, because that's really not the target we're looking at for this audience. And so, looking at the app, you've got this map, Google Maps view. You can zoom in, ignore the points for just a second. But you can zoom in, see. I need to turn that off. You can zoom in and see,
That's Starbucks.
where you are, where Starbucks is, and you can very quickly from here click the plus button and add a new point using your current location. You can start by taking a photograph. You can drop a marker, or you can draw a polygon. And so, if we just drop a marker, then there's that marker. I can move that over to wherever I want to be. Hit the little next arrow. Okay, I'm done. And then it gives you a very simple EDDMapS form where you can choose what species you're interested in. And I'll show you how you can customize the species list in just a second. But let's just go ahead and choose Cogron grass. Again, you can tap to add a picture or take a picture. It's got your latitude and longitude. You can put density information and area information to go with that. Save it, and it adds it into your queue where you can later upload that. And then the point you just created shows up on the map as a new point in a different color, and that's where the white color comes in for that. The other thing you can do, and I'm going to show you in a second how you can how you decide what data you're seeing on the screen. But so here's a giant reed infestation that's right behind the Chick-fil-A right off the interstate in Tifton, and I want to report a revisit to it. So I knew it was there. So what did I do? I went in. I was going in just to monitor it. Well, let's just say I treated it. And so the revisit type I was looking at was treatment. And then when I was there, I actually sprayed it. And then I can save that. You can take a picture to go along with that as well. And then what that's going to do is when I gotta switch this. You go back in. If I can get back to where I was, yeah. If you can see now that point is now turned gray to indicate that I've done something to that. It's no longer is in the queue. Once it's uploaded and then re-downloaded, it'll change to the yellow color. So the way we set this up is you've got these two different sides that I've kind of switched back and forth between. The one on the right-hand side allows you to change the map type. So if I want to switch over to satellite, I can switch over to satellite to, really get a good zoom in on where that location is behind the Chick-fil-A. And then I can also filter the data based on the current eradication status or the state list. The state list is right now not applicable for y'all, but ultimately we're going to keep adding new state lists to that. But then if I go up to the left side, my options are the map, which is the default view, a data sets view, which shows me what data I have downloaded on the device, an offline maps view, which shows me what my options are for offline maps, the upload queue, which is similar to the other apps where it's storing the information that I collected this morning, and then the settings page, which just gives me a little bit more information. You know, you can turn on and off saving the pictures to your camera roll, which is a nice feature that we hadn't previously implemented on the apps. So for what y'all are looking at, y'all don't care about what weeds are found in Tifton, Georgia. You care about what weeds are found in your area. So what we've done is on the EDDMapS website, when you go to my EDDMapS now, you can go on and this my species list and my county list become really important for this app. That's really the only reason those two features have been added to the website. So on my species list, this is where you can choose what species you want to show up on your reportable list, and you can change that to you know, if you want to add everything on the Florida Exotic Pest Plant Council list, then you can just choose that species list for the ones that we've coded in, add that list, and then my list here is going to refresh and is going to go from just being Kogon grass to being all the species on that list. And so when I go back to make a new report, and I just use my location, and then I choose here once I refresh that. So now that I've refreshed that, when I add a new point, sorry, I'm having to do this on my, oh, and y'all can't even see my phone. That would help. So when I go on and I add a new point, now the species list is going to be everything on the Florida invasive species, Florida Exotic Pest Plant Council list, instead of just the short list that I had previously. So you can customize that. What you missed when I didn't have my screen up is if you go to settings, there's a refresh species list button that you have to press before before it downloads the new data. So going back to the data sets, as you can see, I've turned on some different data sets here. And what that's doing is it's downloading all the data for that county onto your device. So if we come over here back to the map and we zoom over here to Florida, then we start to see you know, the points that we've downloaded on the map, and they will, if I go where that was, so you can zoom in, you know, see the points that are already there. It clusters them, and then as you get in, it breaks them out, and it will show you what species it is just simply by um, clicking on the report. We don't currently have it where you can filter just by one species, which I know will be a something y'all will need. But that's a feature that we're planning on adding, as well as the ability to be able to search for a particular record number. So if you knew for whatever reason the EDDMapS record number and you wanted to jump straight to that record, then there will be an option over here for you to do that and jump straight in. Um, but by default, when you download the app, I think it has a whole bunch of counties in Utah and Montana, as well as Florida and Alabama that show up on the data set list. Um, but but going into the website, you can customize that and then just show the areas that you want to be able to show. You know, if I, you know, at the end of the day, after I did my upload and let's just do Baldwin County, I can hit the refresh button here, and what what that refresh button is doing is it's checking the server, see if there's been any new points added, and if there are, then it re-downloads it. If you run into a problem where your new points aren't showing up, then you can always delete them and click on the county, and re-download that that data in just a second. Yeah, it pulled it almost instantly in. So this is kind of the way the interface works. It gives you the option to turn counties on and off. The offline maps, and I went in and downloaded the ones for Tift County. That is one of those situations. I'm going to switch over to, if you're going to be in an area that does not have cellular coverage and you want to be able to see, a little bit of what's going on, then that's where the offline maps come in handy. We've not created those offline maps for every county in the country. We've only done them for some counties, but we went in and did them for all the counties that are involved in y'all's project. So you would have this ability. The problem is that because of the size of the offline maps, you're limited on your zoom level to about right here, which is not ideal given, but when you go to the next size up on these offline maps, then the files get really big very fast. It's exponentially bigger because at every zoom level. So this has been the right trade-off of being able to see where you are versus taking up a tremendous amount of space on the device and causing even problems when you're downloading the data. Especially when you get to some of the western counties that are really big. But you can quickly turn that off and on. Going back and forth here and going back to the standard map when you do have coverage. So that's in a nutshell how it works. The nice thing is, really the focus and really what you have never been able to do with the EDDMapS data on a smartphone previously is do the revisit, so you can go in and change that status on a record. Ideally being able to put detailed treatment information would be in here as well, but you can add as much information as you want into the notes field, so you can not lose that data. We are still, as we are launching this, I'll definitely say it's a soft launch of this app. But as we're doing it, we're still struggling with some of the process, more of the business process of how this works. Because if you're going out and you're doing a lot of work, and day after day, you don't want to have to wait until the new reports you've done have been verified before you see that data on your map. And so the data that will come up in this, right as of right now, you're not limited by data that has to be verified. And we haven't implemented a verification process for the revisits either. But we think we have a plan on how we're going to make that work, where a verifier won't have to go in and verify every revisit that's being done, but they'll get a summary email. So if something looks out of place, then that will allow them to jump on it and modify it, because everything's tied to a user, and you wouldn't really lose any data. So that is EDDMapS Pro in a nutshell. It's really focused on map first and making it as easy as possible to for users that are really reporting a lot of data to report that data. It's an interesting app because when I'm sitting here and I'm using it in my office, showing it to y'all, I'm pinching and I'm zooming around and I'm going from Tifton to the Panhandle and back. But when you're using it in the field, you're really going to use it on that local level, and you're not going to be zooming around. You're just going to be looking at what's currently around you. And so, I encourage you to give it a shot, both, on your device in your office, but also out in the field, and give us feedback. We are definitely open to enhancements, to changes. We feel like our citizen science apps are in pretty good shape. And so we're kind of letting them stay at where they're at, other than adding new species as appropriate. But we really see a lot of our innovation over the next couple of years coming on this EDDMapS Pro platform. And so, it was built for those western counties, and that's where the funding came from. But the agreement from the beginning was to, let's do this and make it where it works everywhere. And so y'all's input and feedback is greatly appreciated. So I can go through some other stuff on the website, or any questions that you have.
Yeah, I think we've got some questions. Can you hear me?
Yes, and go ahead.
I'm interested in the verification process that you mentioned, as it might apply to a set of partners using this. I think I understand that under the EDDMapS, the original EDDMapS, that the data do not load until they are verified by someone looking at a photo that goes along with the data. Is that correct?
Yes, and that is so. Just so I make a little bit of this clear, this is, all the data is in one database. There's not two different databases. That process for verification is still in place. When somebody reports something, an email is automatically sent. I know that Nancy Lowenstein, who's on the phone, is one, if not the verifier in Alabama, and then there's a handful when you go into Florida that are doing it. But Greg Walker was doing it for most of the state for a while, and I think his replacement is planned on being it for Florida. But some of the counties and CISMAs have their own verifiers as well. So all of that's still the same in terms of what the public will see on a website. We allow right now for the app to show both verified and unverified records, simply because it will, you don't want to have a verifier verify something before you could see it on your device the next day.
And so if we have a set of partners that are uploading a lot of data, is it possible to know the source of those data?
Yes. So when you click on the record, and you hit details, then it shows you on every single one of these records who did the reporting on that record.
And what about kind of downloading data into formats that might be manipulated through ArcGIS or Excel? Is there a way to get those data if we needed?
Yeah, so that would have to be, and Sherry Williams asked the same question through the chat, but currently, to get that data, the data has to be verified in terms of what you can download. But those tools within EDDMapS are there. You can go at the species level, and over here on the right hand corner, there's a download where you can download it as CSV, as KML, or as GPX. We recently disabled the shapefile download because there were some issues with the component we were using that was generating the shapefile, and it was causing server problems for everybody, especially when somebody would come in and try to download a couple 100,000 records at a time, whether they needed them or not. But this download is there. You can download everything as a CSV file. At some point, the shapefile download is going to be connected back into this, and you'll be able to do it there. What you can also do if you were not aware is under the advanced query tools, you can go in and choose any combination of factors. So let's say I want to look at Kogon grass, and I want to look at let's do Gambia, Florida, county in Florida. So if you want to do that, then you can go here, submit it. So there's 84 records that are part of that data set, and then you can click on the CSV here. And what that will actually do is tell you that it's generating the file, and it'll send you an email when that file is ready. But it downloads what you specify in that query. One thing that I thought about as I was preparing for this is that there's not currently a way to request multiple counties here. But that's a feature that we're going to add in where you could go in and choose multiple counties in multiple states, maybe the area that you're interested in, and pull that data down in any of those formats. Again, that's just the verified data, but the verification process can be pretty streamlined when you have a known group of people using the app. So, if in Nancy's case, where she's the verifier, if she knows who y'all's team is and she sees all these points coming in that are Kogon grass by your team, then there's tools for her to very quickly verify those, through a bulk verification kind of process versus having to look at each and every one if it's not necessary for the project. Other questions?
Yeah, questions from anybody else who's on? Is there intent to add more data capability in terms of treatment and monitoring other than the notes field?
Yeah, and the question becomes how far you go with that, and where it has not been a priority for us in terms of the standard EDDMapS platform is because in a lot of cases that's not necessarily data that you're going to make public. And so, when we're really focusing EDDMapS on having something that is freely available for the public to use, and partnerships like y'all's to use, how much details do you put in that? Is it enough to say it was treated with glyphosate versus imazapyr, or do you need to know the percent that it was treated with? Do you need to know whether an additive was added to it or a dye was added to it? And so that's where adding the treatment information can get really complicated really fast. If you go to the full way of what you would have to collect in terms of your pesticide, capturing for the day. We've done some of that through a web interface. We designed a tool that a company in Nashville, Invasive Plant Control, has been using for 5 or 6 years, that they use to capture all of their pesticide treatments with. It has been adapted to for use by Minnesota and Wisconsin. And that has been an interesting process because in doing that, you realize the differences between what a company has to collect internally and report back to their clients versus when you start getting agencies involved and working with multiple different partners and contractors. Then you the complexity gets moved up fairly quickly. Um, but I'm open to your feedback on that. I mean, you know, I think that knowing what level of detail would be useful, um, for y'all and your partners, there may be a happy medium where you can collect the information, where you can um, get more than just acres treated, but acres treated by what and how much. There may be a simple way to do that. And one thing I may even suggest for how you use this, this field season is maybe if you're using kind of a standard treatment methodology, and let's say, there's a couple of different tank mixes that you're always using. It may be worth, instead of putting Roundup 5% in the field, that you put, Cogon Grass Project Tank Mix 1 or Cogon Grass Project Tank Mix 2 in that, or some abbreviated version of that in the notes field. And then, if everybody does that consistently, when you download that data and pull it into Excel, you could very quickly summarize that. And maybe it's tank mix blank, 5 gallons. And, that would be a very quick way to summarize that information if everybody was kind of using a standard treatment methodology.
Right. So the notes definitely is part of the downloadable reports.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And in terms of, well, I guess let me go back. You may have mentioned that, and I missed it, the difference between EDDMapS and EDDMapS Pro. What's the primary difference in functionality?
Yeah, so what you can really do on EDDMapS Pro that you can't do on the EDDMapS website or on the Seedon or I've Got One apps is, download all this data, load it onto the device where you're not dependent on going back and forth to the server to see the current distribution. And then that revisit concept. You can do a revisit on the website to an existing point, but you can't do a revisit through the Seedon or I've Got One app to an existing point. So if your Cogon grass infestation is already mapped, and all you're doing is going out and treating it, then you can select that point and then do the revisit instead of mapping a new point.
Okay.
And that's again where, if there are points that y'all have in a GIS system of some point, some type that is not currently in EDDMapS, then that data could be loaded in the EDDMapS and then be available through the app. And
Go ahead.
No, and I was going to say, don't get me wrong, Collector's a useful tool. It's just getting everybody with the same permissions on the same platform can be difficult. And so that's why we built this, was here's a way where we can have something focused on invasive species, and that you're not dealing with licensing and those kind of restrictions.
So I know the Forest Service has had a relationship with you in developing some of this, and so any kind of specific discussions about that relationship might ought to be offline. But I'm just wondering, in general, if you have a user group like a Cogan Grass Partnership with feedback on what would be useful to us in terms of data and functionality. How does that relationship work? Or is it possible just to give you or someone there a call and give you some feedback and expect that some of those things might be implemented, or does there need to be a more formal relationship in terms of future development?
I mean, so yes, I mean, so EDDMapS has gotten some support nationally through state and private forest health protection to do some of this stuff, to do some of the development, not specifically for this app. Budgets are tight right now, and it probably depends on what the ask would be, on whether or not I'm going to say yes, we can do that, not a problem, or hey, if to be able to do this, and this, it's going to take some of our time to do it, and we've got to have some funding to do that. So I'm not going to. My program at the university is primarily, not 100%, but is primarily funded from different projects, and so I'm not going to not do a webinar like this, and I'm not going to not answer the phone or return your phone call if you call and have questions or comments, because I want this tool to be useful for y'all. It just may be, okay, well, Chuck, we need to be able to do, you may ask me, we need to be able to put in exact herbicide ounces and then calculate that on the device and this, and this. And that's what I'm going to say, okay, well, we can do that. That's probably something that's doable, but to be able to do it, it's going to take some, somebody finding some funding and a mechanism to get it to us, for us to be able to do it.
Okay. I'm wondering if anyone else out there has audio capability and has any comments, feedback, concerns, any questions?
Hey, Chuck, this is Nancy. I've got a question about how easy it is to draw polygons using CDEN in the field. If you wanted to actually outline the size of a Cogan grass patch rather than just drop a pin for the location.
Yeah, absolutely. And I should have shown that. So in EDDMapS Pro, I'll start with that, and then I'll switch over to CISMA. So let's just zoom in here. We'll switch over to satellite imagery. So let's zoom in here. Let's say that pond is a Cogan grass infestation. So instead of dropping a point, you do a polygon, and on here you just kind of click the vertices of that polygon, and there is your point. You can cancel that or restart drawing it. You hit done, and when it goes to the next field, not only does it have your polygon on the map there, but it also calculated the acreage to go along with that for you. And so that's already there for you. You can choose a species and then save that just like you would a point. Now, if you're using the seeding app, the seeding app, you have to go in and say, okay, well, I'm reporting Cogan grass, and then once you get here on the seeding app, and this is kind of that hidden feature that you kind of have to know is there to do, but that was somewhat on purpose. Depending on who your audience is, but you can click on the map button. That's going to zoom you in to where you are. And everything I'm showing is on an iPhone. All the functionality is the same on the iPhone as it is on an Android, but some of the implementation may be a little bit different. But down at the bottom of the screen, you can click on Polygon. And on the Seeding app, and this is the same on I've Got One, you have that same option of dropping points, vertices basically to draw a polygon. It shows you misspelled the size of that polygon. But you can also do the sketch feature. And this is something that really takes some playing around with to get used to doing it. But the way it works is you get it.
And then I guess.
Click. Yeah, so you click, you drop a point, it moves you slightly below that point, and then you sketch and draw that polygon from there. And it's a little bit different on the Android, but it's the same kind of concept where you drop a point, it moves away from the point so it can see where your finger is going, and then it draws it in, and then that calculates the acreage as well. And then that polygon stays with the record when it goes into EDDMapS. When you click on a record with a polygon, when you first click on it, it's going to show a point on the map, but when you go to the detail of that record, then it will show the actual polygon to go along with that. Is that what you were looking for, Nancy?
Sort of, but I'm wondering when you're on the ground and you're trying to, can you drop the points by moving physically to the to follow the patch?
So no, there's not currently a map my infestation feature. That is that is in the plan of work for this year, for what we're doing for Utah, to be able to add that into definitely EDDMapS Pro, and probably into EDDMapS, the other apps as well. So yeah, you're standing there, you kind of got to look at the satellite photography and do it that way. The issue that we have not completely resolved with walking the polygon is, it's doable. The Map My Run feature that fitness apps have use the same concept. The question becomes how many points you take,
Right.
how often it takes a point, and to get how detailed a polygon it is. And so that's kind of what our plan is going to be. We want to get this out for this field season, and then, but definitely for next field season, we see that being a feature. It's just figuring out exactly how we implement it and what's useful and what doesn't kill your battery after you map the first polygon. Sherry asked how old the satellite imagery is. The satellite imagery that when you're looking at the live map is coming from Google Maps, and it's as current as they have it. When you go to the downloaded imagery, that imagery, I think that varies by location as well. And I'm not even sure that there's necessarily a way on that to see the date of when where we're pulling that imagery from. There's not a way for us to see the dates that go along with that. So, if you have cellular, my recommendation is, if you're working in areas that have cellular capability, that you want to use that with your devices and not rely on downloading the offline imagery, because the detail is not there. It's only kind of best for last resort if you're working in an area that doesn't have cellular connectivity.
Hey, Chuck.
Yes.
This is Sherry. Hey, the only reason I brought that up is that if you are on the ground and have to map something according to the imagery, if the imagery is old, you may not, it may be really hard to figure out where that infestation is on the map. Like, you know, if for some reason you had a prescribed burn and it's like 3 years or 2 years later, and the imagery is just completely different.
Yeah, and that's where you know, there's huge discrepancies in different areas of the country to the
Right.
Google imagery, and you don't have the option with the Google Maps API that we're using for the apps to do what you can do in Google Earth and actually, you know, look at that at different seasons or different years even. And so that, yeah, I mean, but for, you know, it seems to be that for the more populated areas, the imagery is a little bit better than it is for the less populated areas. So there's probably parts of this area that's going to be you're going to have a lot better imagery than you're going to have than you're going to have in some of the other areas.
Right. And a lot of the counties and water management districts in Florida, we fly every year or every other year for our own imagery.
Right.
That's why, and then use it in our collector. That's why I was just questioning that.
Right. And maybe there's an opportunity that we could, you know, there's probably a way that we could actually overlay that imagery over the Google Maps API. It would just then be you know, it ends up the way Esri handles some of that, you know, versus the way that Google handles it may be a little bit different in terms of how it handles the large, the file size for some of that when you get to the detailed zoom level.
Gotcha. Okay.
It may be something worth looking at though for some areas that have their own imagery as a way to supplement some of that. So yeah, let's talk about that. You know, another offline and see if there's a solution we could, you know, help with that.
Okay, thanks.
It really depends on how, you know, whether the imagery is geocoded in a way that it could be easily overlaid on Google, or if it is, then it may not be a problem to do at all.
Right, and that part of it, the geocoding, is above my pay grade, so I would have to get you in touch with other people.
And then it's you know, as you zoom in, how much detail you have to, you know, is really the
right.
But I think the imagery in Google, you know, through Google, the Google Maps API is pretty current most of the time.
I'm not, like, at least where I'm using it, it is not.
Okay.
It's a few years old, whereas I have 2017 imagery, and we're just about to get 2018 imagery.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. But that's just where, you know, I'm just in a small county in Florida.
Right.
And the imagery's older.
Any other comments, questions?
I have one. Is this app compatible with older cell phones?
I have a question of compatibility with older cell phones. What's the platform necessary?
Yeah, I mean, we try in anything we do to go back a couple of versions in terms of operating system for both iPhone and Android. You know, I can tell you that you're going to when you have areas with lots of points, and you're overlaying lots of points, if you've got a device that is very limited memory wise, then that would be where it could cause you some issues. But that may just be that you only turn on one county at a time when you're working, in the county you're working in versus having multiple counties turned on. Um, but yeah, I mean, if you run into a problem with incompatibility, then please email me and let me know, and we'll check into it and see if it's something we can easily fix. Obviously, iPhone is a little bit easier because there's only a handful of devices that were ever made, versus when you jump over to Android, we've seen Android devices that have the same model name but a different letter, and one would have a GPS unit built in and one would not have a GPS unit built in. And that's especially when you get to working on tablets. But that's an important note when you're talking about iPads. Um, Only the iPads with the cellular capability, whether it's turned on or not, only the iPads with the cellular chips built in have GPS chips built in. So if you're looking at buying an iPad for data collection, and even if you're not going to have turn on the cellular, you won't even have a GPS if you don't buy the one with cellular capability built in. Um, this is definitely on the iPads. We've tested this on everything from iPad minis up to the larger 12-inch iPad Pros, and had good luck on it. Good luck with it. Android, again, there's hundreds and hundreds of, if not thousands of devices. And so, if you run into an issue with a particular one, just let us know and we'll see if we can track down what's going on.
Okay, thank you.
We definitely want to know about incompatibilities or crashes. I mean, please don't, if it crashes the first time you try to do something on it, please send me an email, reach out to me, and we'll definitely follow up with you and see if we can figure out what's going on. That's kind of our what we do, and we want to make sure our tools work. So you may find something that nobody else has clicked on exactly the right way, and help us solve a problem for others.
Okay, I wanted to be clear on availability. You said a March rollout.
Yes, but
is it available now?
Yes, everything that I've shown you is available now. There's a few things that may need to still be tweaked on it, but yes, version 1.4 is the current version for both the iPhone and the Android. If you go to the settings page down there, it shows that. So if you had downloaded it already, you want to make sure that you're on version 1.4 or greater. And because as we find, over the next month to 6 weeks, there will probably be, some multiple updates of this as we add new features and get rid of any bugs that may come up. But yes, both apps are available in the stores now.
All right, one more call. Any questions, comments? Well, thank you very much, Chuck, for your time and for sharing this information with us. We'll do some more consulting internally and with our partners, and we'll need to make a decision pretty quick which way we're going to head with this, so we can get started into this year collecting some common data, and I will be in touch with you one way or the other.
That sounds great, and I will. I recorded this so I can. I'll post it somewhere where you can share it with any partners that maybe weren't able to make it today.
Great, thank you. All right.
No problem.
Thank y'all.
Have a good day.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes. Somebody still there?
I think it was just thank you.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to figure out how to stop the recording. So,
All right.
That is because my phone, I have to send